Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. The next Wasteless World Talks are here with Bill and Kevin and myself to ride to the future on the back of language again. And I have chosen a simple word today, as usually. It's cloud. And I would like to ask you, Bill, first. If you close your eyes and you hear the term cloud, what came first to your mind, please?
I love clouds, and all the different shapes and all the different kinds. And I wish I had listened in high school when they were telling me the different types. Um, but that's really not the first thing that came to my mind. The first thing that came to my mind was uh, cloud-based uh, data, or using the cloud, all the information that's up in the cloud.
What about you, Kevin? What came to your mind?
Well, I'm thinking along the same lines as Bill. I get an email at least once a week and a notification every day on my computer saying that my cloud capacity is full, and if I give somebody some money, I can have extra storage. And the interesting thing is, I haven't asked for a cloud. I've never accessed a cloud. I have no idea what is being stored up there. And so for me, it's one great big irritating mystery.
You know what is interesting? That, as Bill said, the clouds are on the sky, they are changing. Every single second, it's different. We cannot take them in our hands, they are far away, and so on. And still, we call something which should store our data to be safe, we call it cloud. Have no idea who came with this name, but for a long time, when generated cloud computing started to be so popular, I pointed out the issues or the risks which are connected. Because if you have no electricity or no data, no, you will have not access to the cloud. And right now, just months ago or so, some of the companies started to question it, the cloud, whether it is really the best solution or not. And just 1 hour ago in Czech Republic, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs find out that the Chinese somehow for 2 years monitored the complete communication of the ministry globally. And they blame the Chinese, not our own security experts, they blame the Chinese. So that's the cloud.
Did you get a message the other day from the European Union saying that there was now some new European cloud thing that you could put your stuff on there, whatever it is they call it, rather than trusting an American one? As if you can trust the European one. Just so ridiculous.
Yesterday, there was a published, quite interesting research study, not about clouds, but about water. Usually, if you speak, there are three types of water: liquid, frozen, and
Yes.
gas, let's call it. But they found out that the fourth one, it's memory. They said, I can send you the paper. It's memory. They said that they measured that water has a memory, which is quite interesting because if you go for other researchers and our other studies, they say there is same amount of water on the planet as it was 1 million years ago. It's just circulating. It has a different, let's say, structure. It's not liquid, but it's in the air or whatever. And if you think that in every single drop is a memory, that's quite interesting study. Quite interesting.
I remember as a kid, one of these nerdy things you do, but in those days there was 5 different types of cloud. And you could look at the clouds and then say, okay, this is cirrus cloud, which is one of these really high altitude clouds, or this is a cirronimbus. I can't remember the names of these things, but some of these clouds, when you see these really beautiful, like cauliflower shaped things, some of them can rise 10 kilometers up into the air. And because they're so big but so far away, it isn't possible for us to put a scale onto these things. So when you look at this thing, it's impossible to realize you're looking at 10 kilometers.
As you're saying that about very, very high clouds, in when I was teenager maybe, I was I love to read, and one of the books, one of the series of books is about the First World War, and the part that I liked to read the most was about the biplanes and the triplanes, and they had no control. There was a stick, right? Up, down, but not all these gauges and everything. And if they got into a dogfight, two airplanes got into a dogfight, and one guy was losing or needed to get away, he would duck into a cloud because there was no radar. He would duck into a cloud. The problem is when you're in the cloud, you have no reference. You can't look down and see if you're going straight or crooked or whatever. So they used to always carry a glass, and they would pour water into the glass and see if the level of because in the cloud you can't see anything. So, so when you talk about the clouds being so high, I just think about ducking into a cloud and getting away.
You know, in the noon discussion, we spent quite a lot of with one, I don't know what it is, but you in English say we are on the cloud nine.
I'm on cloud nine. Yeah, how you doing today? I'm on cloud nine.
To express
You're on cloud nine.
I am, to express the happiness. In my country, we say, in German, you will say, wir sind in den siebten Himmel. And we have the same. I don't know, can you translate it? We are in the seventh
heaven. Yeah, we have that expression as well.
And I was just thinking,
that come from?
That's the question. I have no idea. You have 9, we have 7. No, maybe when I talked with my friend in here, she said, maybe because this is the lucky number. In Czech, and maybe European, we have a lucky number 7. Many people have lucky number 7. Maybe in the US is number 9. Not sure.
Not really. It's 7.
Then and I don't know.
Everybody has their own lucky number. My lucky number is 8. Whatever.
But it was quite interesting that we generally switch quite fast from the standard cloud and the changing and so on to this number 9. And we just try to remember what was the last time when you have been on the cloud 9. So what about you, Bill?
Another word for cloud is if sometimes if I'm really sick, head cold, whatever, and I just say my head's just a big cloud. I can't see anything. I can't. There's probably other meanings to that. Cloudy.
I just received a message from Paloma. She's traveling today, so she apologized because she's on travel.
There is another expression, to be under a cloud, which means to be that you've done something you probably shouldn't have done, and now other people have found out about it. So
you're in trouble.
Yeah.
It's interesting. We do not have this. we say foggy to the expression which Bill mentioned, but I do not remember that something what you just expressed. We have
If you see
probably
a
other
cartoon,
expressions to that. So
yeah, if you see a cartoon, sometimes there's a person who's always um depressed, and they'll draw them in the cartoon with this big black cloud over the top of him.
that's right. But it was quite interesting because as we touch as well the computer clouds and so on, so what we expressed. But as I said, I like the idea that everyone can access data which are somewhere stored. That's great. But the risk of losing this data, and I have here in my office, I have a beautiful picture of a young girl. The picture is 50 years old. And what is interesting, then when my colleague saw this picture, she said, Michael, you know what? When we have been young, she is our age, she said, with, we value, hugely we value the photographs because there has been few. It was very expensive to go to photographer and so on, make it. And we have it on the walls. Today we have thousands of pictures in our mobiles and nobody look at it. So why to have a cloud filled with, let's call it bullshit, or something which we will never see again? We can call it waste. Instead of having clear mind, clear sky, beautiful, and enjoying the sky, there is, I make one analytics of the data storage. They said 85 to 92% of data will never be used again. And still we invest in installation and building and water cooling and energy and everything. And someone recently says, I think it was the AI, whoever, it doesn't matter. He says that to run AI, soon we will need more energy than supply to the humans. That's why should we have it? Just and that's the question which is never answered. Why should the technology get more than the humans who create it?
My first answer would be because we let it. We spend time in front of our cell phones and on the screens instead of out in the woods or by the ocean, and we allow the data to become our master. It's like you always say with the fire, uh, a good servant but a lousy master. Same with the data. There's lots of people who don't access data, especially older people, and yet they can have wonderful conversations.
I will say much deeper conversations than the people who are sitting in the room just messaging to each other instead of talking.
I really think that that's a skill, a life skill that is changing and degrading. I think uh, the level of conversations that I can have with my kids uh, is nowhere near the level of conversation that I used to have with my mother and dad. And I think it's because of practice. We just get out of practice. That's one of the reasons I like uh, this community uh, because I don't find this very many places. Most people are just surrounded by the cloud, which is the data, which is fogging my mind.
I just read that 2 days ago, I think on Monday, I don't know whether it's already legislation or not, but in Texas, there shouldn't be allowed children younger 18 to access social media. It should be a new law, I think, or something regulation, or I don't know how it's called and what is the difference generally. But it was quite surprising for me. So everyone below 18 should not be allowed to access social media.
In the U.S., that's a conversation that's going on. with in most of the states,
Hmm.
and whether or not it's 11 or 18 or some number, and a lot of schools do not allow cell phones in the classroom, uh, and it's a conversation, and I always laugh a little bit at that because the first smartphone was sold in 2007. And so it's almost 20 years that it took for the ethics and governance to catch up with this one. You know, it's the same as AI, um, that it's been around for long enough. We're just now trying to figure out how to cope with it and how to keep it from making fake people or you know, it just, why don't we think of these things at the beginning?
It's the same like,
I just,
sorry, Kevin, it's your turn.
no, I was going to say it's the same with a lot of great inventions. They we can't just invent stuff and throw it out there. That a lot of things need legislation to keep us safe. Even the invention of the car, it's a fantastic invention, but there must be rules and there must be regulations to protect ourselves.
And the question is, I think that we reached a stage where there is more regulations than non-regulation, or we call it natural thinking and behavior. You mentioned, Bill, that the communication came from the behavior of your parents and yourself. You just talk to each other. So
Yeah.
it's not about ban, it's about improving the way how the people behave to each other, how we work together, how we approach it. And right now, there was another study or video which I have seen how the implementation of AI, how fast it scale up, for example, the research papers. And they find out that 80% are written by AI, and many of those has no relevance to the topic. And many of those are completely crazy about, but the authors who write just their name on the top get paid for it. They get credit, you know, and this is why they just use it so frequently. And as you mentioned, Kevin, the safe cloud, there does not exist anything like safe cloud. It doesn't matter whether it's European Union or anybody else. These are the first one who stole the data which you input in. So I would prefer the Cloud9 to be part of our life, but there is no such a thing that anybody will offer you. Do you want cloud? Cloud9 is here. So, and even the Pornhub is shutting down. So I don't know where the people find the Cloud9. But it's interesting. Coming back to the idea of this memory of clouds. I do remember that when I was 18 or whatever, shortly after the Velvet Revolution, I went to Austria and bought a small camera, and there was a switcher for panoramic pictures. You just switch and one to make it. How it's called in English when they make this old from the film? Developed, yeah, yeah. The development of standard photograph cost 6 crowns. This one, 36 crowns. And I just went through the albums with the photographs, and I have full albums just with clouds because it was so beautiful. And it was so long, and it must be unbelievable amount of money, but such a great memories. You look at it and you are there. You are there. So simple it is. So
Here's one of my favorite memories, um, is coming out of our condo with he was probably 5 years old at that time, my grandson, and we're walking across the parking lot, and he looks up and says, "It's a crab," and I didn't know where that was coming from. So I looked up, and there was a cloud that had big pincers like it. It was a crab, and I thought, and the very first thought that came into my mind was, why didn't I see that? Am I so fixed on getting to wherever we're going, or that I missed the clouds? But he saw it. That's what a 5-year-old will do.
It's also interesting. And when I was at art school, and of course we had to go out and draw clouds, and then came back, and we'd all done it wrong. And the teacher, he said, yeah, you know, if you look at the cloud properly, there's a top, which you can't see, then there's the side, which you can see, then there's the bottom. And if you look at all clouds, the dark bits, they're the bottom of clouds. But if you don't know, you don't know. It's such a sort of basic thing. But you can look, but you don't know what you're seeing. And sometimes it's really helpful to be shown what you're looking at. So when you look at a cloud, the dark bit is the bottom of the cloud.
I'm sure both of you have been on the top of a mountain for skiing or anything else, hiking, and you have been above the sky, above the clouds. And you look from the top, not being in the plane or snow, you just been there and there has been below you. And I remember skiing into the clouds. It was so fascinating. It's a long time ago, but it was a great feeling. And I just, when I see how base jumpers with this flying whatever, wow, these videos are unbelievable, especially if they really jump into the cloud and go through the cloud, and then the countryside show up and they are flying without anything in their hands or somewhere. It's wonderful.
When you mentioned how drawing clouds, Kevin, and you didn't know what you're drawing, right? I remember you've probably seen it in art galleries or videos. The picture changes as you turn around. So here it's a flower, but as you walk around it, it's a man or a face, right? Or one of them was, when you look at it from this angle, it's a little girl. And the more you walk around, it turns into an old lady, right? You don't ever know what it is that you're looking at. Maybe it doesn't matter.
Yeah, it's but it is we take what we see for granted quite often. We don't fully understand what we're looking at, or we don't appreciate what we're looking at, or it's too complicated to understand.
Right. Right.
And the
I
question
like that
is,
last answer best. It's too complicated.
do we
We're
need
so
to
busy with
understand?
little data, little thing worries, and what we got to get at the grocery store. And so many bits of data in there, we don't have time to try to figure it out, and so we just ignore it.
You know, when I punctured my first unicycle and I have to repair it, I have to open it. I shouldn't do that because there is nothing how it can work. There is, of course, I do understand the battery. The battery is all the time some pack and so on. But then the entire engine is in the wheel. How it can work? I I will be much happier if I didn't open it. But unfortunately, if you need to repair, you have to open it. And the old machine has been quite, in fact, not so complicated as the new machines. They are much more complicated, but not the newest one. So, but
Yeah,
the
I did
question
that
is,
too with um, I wanted to see what a lawnmower, the engine on a lawnmower is. So I took my dad's perfectly good lawnmower and I took it apart and I laid all the pieces out in order on the garage floor. It never got back together. It never got back together. And of course, I had to explain it to my dad. He's an engineer, so he couldn't understand not being able to put something back together again. I never take anything apart. Sorry.
Well, I bought when I was at studying at university, I bought a car. I bought an old MGB, and I didn't know anything at all about engines. But it's one of these things, I found it so fascinating. I didn't want to just not understand every single thing about this car. So I took the top off the engine, this metal cover, and then there was these rockers and springs and stuff like that. So I was just poking around trying to figure out what it was. And something flew off under tension. I don't know what it was or where it went. I never found it. But it didn't seem to affect the running of the car.
I did the same with pocket watch.
You'll figure that one out.
Yeah.
I did the same with pocket watch, but unfortunately it didn't work anymore. So there are some really, sometimes all the gears are needed, but sometimes many are not needed, but they are there to make it nicer, happier, better, whatever. But it's interesting about the clouds. I never tried to figure out more. I was satisfied with the cloud as it is. Looking at it as Bill explained, looking at the different shapes, which in 1 minute has been different, and speaking with friends about it, lying on the ground in the grass, looking at it. And the interesting part that if you look at it with someone, it's usually you don't see the same. As you said, there was a crop and you saw the crop. But I do remember that sometime when I was with my friend or someone, I look at it, I see something, and he or she said, no, it's something different. And it was so interesting, And as we talk in the noon discussion, it was quite interesting. There was Leslie, she is a writer, and I asked her about the Cloud9, and she said, Michael, it's very important for me because only in Cloud9 I can write, and it's so seamless. It's so easy. You just sit and write the entire book in 1 hour time. But if I am not there, I can try hard as possible, not a single page will. And I have exactly the same. I have to feel it. I have to do. And this is something which I never get with this computer clouds. I have the same Gmail. Just recently, I told me, you have 15 gig of space, but you are close to full. And for a long time, I was just deleting the oldest ones. There was a time when it started, I have 100,000 emails there. And still it fit.
Wow.
Today I have 20,000 and it's not enough. The space is the same. So I decided, and it was on Saturday or Sunday, I decided I will delete the biggest one because there is a function, delete the biggest one. So I did. I didn't read them. I have a copy in my computer, probably. It doesn't matter. From 15 or 12 at the time, I am on 5. So following to delete the biggest one, it's not a bad idea.
Yeah, and it's a good idea not to reread them or rethink them, because if you haven't opened it up in years, what's the chance that you're actually going to need that thing? That's a good idea. I'm going to do that.
And as I said, I have 100,000 emails. It was really a huge one. Today it's 20,000, which means for me, the size of an email, it's 5-fold. Or not the volume, because I have 20,000. So it must be the size. So must be something hidden inside, whatever it is. And it goes step by step, generally. So it was quite interesting. Have you seen the new electric car introduced by, not introduced by, but co-funded by Jeff Bezos, Amazon. Slate Auto. It's quite a new story. It's a very basic pickup, electric pickup. Should cost originally below 20,000 US dollars. Right now the price is 25, but you buy the very basic for 25, and then you have the accessories. You can make a cap of it or different things. It's quite interesting story, but I have the feeling that it's a cloud. It's a Nojek. I have the feeling it's Nojek generally. The idea is great. Have the same base, huge. Everything is the same. So the production can go much faster, of course, and so on. And you just buy the additional accessories. It's quite new. So last week, I think, or month, I'm not sure, but it's quite interesting. Slate Auto.
I'll look that up because one of the big contributors to waste has been what do they call it? Planned obsolescence. So this year we're going to add air conditioning. Oh, I gotta have that. Gotta have that. This year I'm going to add. You keep adding features, and people want all the latest features. But if you make the same thing, right? You change the color or change the, but you don't keep coming out with new features. Maybe every 10 years you upgrade uh, with new features. I like that, less waste.
The car industry, I was reading this the demise of Harley Davidson motorbikes, and then from that you go on dum dum dum. But I was reading about truck manufacturers now. Modern trucks break down all the time. Same with modern cars. Remember, 15, 20 years ago, reliability just wasn't an issue with cars. Most cars, they ran and they ran and they ran. Volkswagens are now notoriously unreliable. And it's strange that these old problems are coming back in. And it is because the manufacturers are doing it on purpose. They want the machines to break down more often because they want to sell more spare parts and they want to make money repairing their product. It's just built-in waste.
It's I agree. I've been very lucky. I had one car for 12 years. My car now I've had for 13 years. Uh, very reliable. I've been getting 200,000 miles plus on the cars. When I first went to work, uh, I was a salesman. They gave me a company car. The company policy was you got a new company car at 60,000 miles. And they said because studies have shown that after 60, um, on average, the cost of repairs goes up quite a bit. Um, I remember my dad used to buy a new car every 3 years, like clockwork. Um, like I say, I've had two cars now for over 12 years. I may never buy a new car again. Well, I've never bought a new car. I only buy used cars. But uh, so I think this whole subject of planned obsolescence and getting people used to buying a new car every 3 years, um, I think it needs rethinking. I think that the trends are different now. I think that people have a car for longer. Um, and I don't get turned on by the new features as much as I did when I was younger. Maybe it's a thing about age. Maybe there's other reasons for it.
You know,
But it's a mindset.
uh, I have my driving license for 30 whatever years, and in Czech Republic, I think in UK and Denmark will be the same. We have to change summer and winter tires. It's general in the law. We have to change by some date in the winter or before the winter came, and then we don't need to switch for the summer tires, but you switch because it's more convenient. And just last week or the week before, for the first time in my life, and I switch them myself usually, not in the last 5 years, but before I switch all the time the tire. So it was the only time when I touched the car. And I bought all year long tires for the first time because the other seller says, you are not driving too much. I said, currently 10,000 kilometers per year, it's probably the max. Before I make 100. And he said, it has no sense to change. So try these. And they changed it for me. And on the first drive, it looks well. So I'm looking forward. And I think if you speak about planned obsolescence, you know, Bill, I think what is missing with every single project is the last page. McLean's rule, last page should be there. Because if not, then the obsolescence is so easy. Let's buy another one. But if it will be there and it will be in some way, I will not call it obligation of the producer, but some connectivity to the producer. He will not push you to buy a new one because he will have a cost to whatever do with the old one. So I think that it can be very interesting to put it somehow in a legislation, in a mindset of people. This is the best way, because then you buy it once, and you know with the second project, if you buy the second same product, you will know already what you can do. And we are creative, so I would like to see a cloud of creativity. You know, I did this with the tires, and I did that, and from the tires which I changed remained the steel middle part. And I am thinking what to do out of it. And I will put plants in it or whatever, because it's durable. Why should I sell it as a steel scrap? It would be nonsense. I will do something nice out of it. And I'm really looking forward to do it. And we have 2 minutes left.
I was just thinking about cars. My car is a mechanical car. It has a computer in it, but most things I can, in theory, fix. So, if a carburetor is not working or fuel injections, I can fix it. I can fix a lot of things. I can change the brakes myself. And to have a car that I can't fix, it's just so uninteresting, because half of the joy of having a car is finding out how it works, then taking it to bits and hopefully putting it back again. It's something really nice to understand what this machine is all about.
You know, what I would like to see, the cloud of creativity, the cloud of human creativity. That will be great. And that's why we are here, and we have the last minute. So I have to thank you for being with me today. And I would like to thank you and wish you have a nice time, free of waste and wasting in all its forms. Stay safe, be free, be human, and enjoy the clouds. Every single one on the sky. And see you next week. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.